Part 2. Building Skills. Listening. Exercise L1. Writing what the speaker means. 1.
Alternative medicine's efficacy has never been confirmed, so obviously we need to put them under the same strict investigation as we do with developing medicines, medicines under development.
2.
So the brain has this tendency, and this shouldn't surprise you about the brain. You know about infants' recognition of faces, and we're all familiar, of course, with the face we call the man in the moon. This tendency is to interpret vague images as specific ones.
3.
The savagery of the Mongols probably, no doubt, exaggerated, was moderated. Moderated because they lived on tribute, and in order to collect tribute, only prosperous subjects can provide tribute.
4.
The technique of repeating the initial consonant sound, that's alliteration. I don't have to spell that for you, do I? That's a common poetic device.
Exercise L2. Answering questions about content. 1.
Long-term food storage occurs in the endosperm of the seed.
Where does food storage occur? 2.
We should be concerned about, as future teachers, does the average person understand the difference between science and pseudoscience? We seem to be failing in teaching fundamental critical thinking skills.
Why does the professor believe teachers have not succeeded in teaching critical thinking skills? 3.
If you take a universal unit of time, let's say a second. If you take a second, 1/60th of a minute, which is 1/60th of an hour, 1/24th of a day, you do the math. If you take that universal unit of time, you have to remember that the Earth doesn't rotate quite regularly. Not an accurate enough standard for modern measurements.
What is the professor pointing out? 4.
I think you already know my view on borrowing money. It's good if what you're getting, say a house in an up-and-coming area, will ultimately be worth more than the money and interest you pay back. And bad when you buy a car, for instance, that you can't sell at a profit. Then you don't want. You shouldn't borrow. You should never borrow to buy something that depreciates, goes down in value.
Under what conditions does the speaker think it is acceptable to borrow money? Exercise L3. Identifying the meaning of filler phrases and reductions. 1.
So if these tribes weren't, literate, how did they send messages?
Well, let's say that if you wanted to communicate something important and weren't literate, you'd draw a stylized picture, a simplified one, something that was agreed upon.
What does the woman mean by, let's say that? 2.
Excuse me, I've made an appointment. They recommended that students get a flu shot. Here's my student ID.
Okay. Let me see. Here are your records, Jeff. Go ahead and take a seat. A nurse will be with you in just a second.
What does the woman mean by "let me see"? 3.
I just don't remember how to do this calculus problem.
Oh, come on now. You attended Dr. Brown's lecture. You did, didn't you?
What does the woman mean by "come on now"? 4.
Well, how does the mother's smoking, actually hurt the baby? How does the smoke get to the fetus and reduce the oxygen to the unborn baby?
Well, see, carbon monoxide, instead of oxygen, is absorbed from hemoglobin molecules in the mother's blood.
What does the man mean by "see"? Exercise L5. Identifying reference in conversation. 1.
You know the author Harriet Beecher Stowe?
The one who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin about slavery, right?
Yeah, well, when he met her, President Lincoln supposedly called her the little lady who started the Civil War.
2.
What'd you find out about the Alaskan Purchase?
Well, when the U.S. Secretary of State, who was William Seward then, when he arranged to purchase it from Russia in 1867, people thought the idea was crazy, and they started calling Alaska, the Alaskan Purchase, Seward's Folly.
Oh, I remember reading that.
3.
What'd you finally decide to do your political science paper on?
I'm doing a comparative study between the American Congress and the British Parliament.
Find anything interesting?
Well, for one thing, there are no restrictions on debates in the English House of Lords. So if its members think something is really important, they talk the issue through until they're all satisfied.
4.
Now, I'd like all of you to try to get to the Turkish Cultural Arts exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Do you know how long it'll be on for?
Yes, till November 18th. The museum opening times are 10 to 5 from Tuesday through Saturday and at 12 to 5 on Sundays. The museum is closed on Mondays. Okay? There'll be a number of events to complement the exhibition. These will include 3 lectures. Of course, I realize you have busy schedules, but try to attend at least one.
Do you have the topics and dates of the lectures?
No, I don't. Not with me, anyway. I'll let you know next week. Also, there will be an evening of traditional Turkish music.
Oh, I'd be very interested in that. Could you try to get more information on the music as well?
Exercise L6. Identifying reference in a lecture. 1.
Because of the disintegration, breakdown of the traditional family in many countries, we have seen this happening here. Many elderly people have no, what you could describe as a place to call home. And there's no family members to help these people if they have, in case of an emergency. So in order to address these problems of the delegates, the elderly, in order to address the problems of the elderly, delegates to the UN formed the United Nations Symposium on Population to meet and to pool their ideas, discuss the different possibilities, and make recommendations.
2.
To climb Mount Everest is possibly or probably the dream of every mountaineer. But you can't just go out and climb Mount Everest. It takes a lot of planning, expenses to think about, and so on and so forth. One of the things that a club, you have to form a kind of group, an alpine club. You can't go climb Mount Everest by yourself. Anyway, In order for an alpine club to make this climb, it must apply to the Nepalese Tourism Ministry for a permit. You need a permit. Normally, these are granted to only a few groups each season.
Three.
Blaise Pascal, the guy that's known for Pascal's law, he also invented the first digital calculator. He did this to help his father. His father was a tax collector. Anyway, a particular problem that he faced was the division of the French currency at the time. Unlike the euro, or even the French franc, the currency during Pascal's time was more complicated. So anyway, at that time, Pascal was working on this in the 1640s. The currency was in livre, sol, and denier. Now, 12 deniers made a sol, and 20 made a livre. It was much more difficult, technology-wise, to build a machine to calculate such divisions of currency than it would have been, say, if the currency was like today's currencies, which are divisible by 10.
Exercise L7. Following signals. 1.
Land reform can involve large estates being parceled out in smaller plots. In contrast, it can also involve small landholdings being consolidated into larger estates.
2.
Using word connotations that have powerful associations for your reader or listener has the effect of making your facts or opinions appear more attractive or less attractive. Consequently, writers and speakers use connotations to persuade their audience.
3.
Sea defenses are built to prevent beaches from being washed away. However, these defenses may be the cause of land erosion further along the coastline.
4.
After the beginning draft of a paper is finished, first put away the paper and do something else, and then go back to it later with a clear mind.
5.
The decomposition in organic matter is important for the release and circulation of minerals into the environment. In particular, detritus feeders like shrimp in the sea and earthworms on land have a role in the breakdown of dead material.
Exercise L8. Using signals for understanding conversations and lectures. 1.
The importance of these dinosaur tracks that were discovered is how much information about dinosaurs that we can get from them. First, these tracks are in an area near where, at the time of these animals, there were seas. So, they were walking along a beach and sinking into the sand, okay? Second, besides the tracks themselves, giving a location and, well, there also appear to be tracks of young dinosaurs near tracks of older ones. So we can imagine a moving herd, like a herd of elephants. Third, the tracks are in sequences of about 8 to 10 paces. Now, this enables scientists to calculate both the animal's stride and speed. And finally, the depth of the print of the larger animals contrasted with the smaller ones. Well, we can use this information to show that the dinosaurs may have weighed as much as 10,000 pounds and been 23 feet tall.
Two.
Okay, so this study showed that trees could defend themselves against insects. Pests came and stripped the leaves, okay? Now, as a result of the attack, the trees appeared to defend themselves by undergoing changes in the nutritional quality of their leaves. These changes were directly caused by the pest attack. But an interesting thing about the attack was, what was found was that the leaves of nearby trees underwent the same changes in nutritional quality as the ones that were attacked. Now, why would a pest attack on one tree cause other trees to make these nutritional changes in their leaves as well? So, what was happening here? How did the neighboring trees know when they should make these changes? Well, it's hypothesized that the trees that were being studied, the ones attacked, were emitting chemical substances. So the second result of the attack was that the trees under attack seemed to chemically transmit that information to other trees, sort of chemically told the others about the attack. Consequently, the trees that were not under direct attack began to set up their defenses. It's for that reason that trees can chemically communicate pest attack, that these same chemical substances are being looked at as a possible way to control pests.
Three.
Are you ready for the marine biology test?
Well, yeah. Quiz me.
Okay. What are the 3 types of tail fins? Caudal fins.
Right. Caudal fins or tail fins are, rounded, forked, and lunate.
Right. And what's the difference?
Well, rounded fins are soft and flexible.
What are they good for?
Let's see. They're good for maneuvering and effective for speed. No, for acceleration.
Okay. And forked fins?
Oh, rounded fins aren't very efficient for continuous swimming because of the drag and the fish gets tired. But a fish with forked fins can swim quickly without getting tired out. Forked fins have less drag.
That's right. And what about lunate fins?
Oh, those are good for going continuously for long distances.
And how is that possible?
Well, they're rigid.
So?
That makes for the book said, high propulsive efficiency, and there's very little drag because of a small surface area.
So why don't all fish have lunate fins if they're so effective?
Oh, because, the rigidity. It makes it hard for the fish to maneuver.
Well, it sounds like you know your caudal fins. Let's hope there's a question about them on the test.
Four.
How's the physics class going?
Let's not even talk about it. I'm so confused.
Oh? What don't you understand?
Well, all this. Stable or statically stable equilibrium or whatever.
Okay, you're talking about static stability versus, dynamic stability, I bet.
I don't know. Yeah, I think those are the terms.
I think you're getting confused by the terms rather than the ideas.
Oh.
Let me give you a simple illustration, okay?
If you think it'll help.
Visualize a kid on a tricycle and one on a bicycle. Got it?
Okay.
Well, if a child stops and sits on his tricycle with his feet on the pedals, it would stand there. It couldn't be pushed over very easily, right?
Right.
But if a kid stops on a bicycle, he can't just sit there on the bike at a dead stop with his feet on the pedals. He'd topple over, right?
Right.
So physicists say that the tricycle has static stability. That means it balances at a standstill, whereas the bicycle doesn't balance at a standstill. Are you with me?
Okay. Trike stable when standing still, bicycle not.
Right. Now think of the kid riding the bicycle. You've seen people speeding along, and then they lean into the corner to go around it. Did you ever go really fast on your trike as a kid and then make a fast turn? What happened?
I can't remember my tricycle days, but I can imagine that the kid on the tricycle will crash.
Yeah, that's right. The kid on the tricycle will crash, and the one on the bike won't. And this is called dynamic stability. The bicycle has dynamic stability, and the tricycle doesn't.
So, The bicycle is stable when moving, dynamic stability, and the tricycle is stable when not moving, static stability. Okay, yeah, I can understand that.